Welcome back, everybody, to Streaming Your Way to Success. I'm Nick Black, and just as a recap, in the last episode, we began a discussion on the technical side of streaming. We went a little bit into OBS and some technical do's and don'ts for your setup. Well, today it's time to get super technical. The moment you all have been waiting for. I'm talking Ableton, OBS, overlays, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Stream Decks, and every other stream that your parents warned you about when you were a little kid. But before we get into any of that, a little disclaimer. For some of you, this will be a dive into the deep end. Trust me when I say that I've got you. There's no need to worry. Uncle Nick's gonna make sure that your pretty little face doesn't go under the surface of the pool for too long. That got dark really fast. All jokes aside, some of you will be fine just streaming with your phone and your phone camera, and that's totally cool. Your phone camera is honestly better than most webcams, so you do you. Happy streaming. For the rest of you that are wanting to take your streams on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and every other platform to the next level, this is for you. Let's get started. Now we're going to start off with a pop quiz, everybody. I want you to tell me what was the most important aspect of streaming from the last video. There were 3 that we talked about, but what was number 1? Take 5 seconds. Hey, that's right. It was audio. Good job. So let me show you how we can run Ableton, or any other DAW for that matter. It's a little bit different depending on what you're using, but it's all sort of the same. We're gonna run it into OBS, and I'm gonna show you what those settings look like. It can be really confusing if you've never done it before. So we've got 2 methods here of doing what we need to do. And what we're trying to do in essence is get your audio signal from Ableton to OBS. It sounds simple, but depending on what kind of setup you've got, it can be pretty complicated. But what we're going to start with is method number 1. This will be the method that most of you use while you're streaming. We're going to be running Ableton and OBS on the same computer. And to do that, we're going to be using a free program called iShowU Audio. Now, iShowU Audio is a free program that you can install just by searching it online. Here's your Catalina installer. It essentially allows you to run a cable from one part of your computer to the other part of your computer, but all on the inside using software only. Now, once you get it installed, you should be able to go to your system settings in your sound settings, and you'll be able to see iShowU Audio Capture. I'm gonna switch it back there for just a second though. You'll see it on output and input. Now, once you've got it installed, we'll go in to the settings of whatever DAW you're using. With Pro Tools, it's a little complicated, but with Ableton, it's pretty straightforward. You go to the audio section of what you're doing. If you have an audio interface that you were using, and I'm guessing if you're using Ableton, you do have an audio interface. I have an Antelope by Zentour, and so the input that you're gonna want is your Zentour. Whatever interface you have. If you have a Focusrite, you'll see Focusrite here. That'll be the input. That's where your mics and your guitars are gonna go. Now here's the key. You're going to select for your output, iShowU Audio Capture. That's going to allow the audio to go from Ableton into this virtual device on the inside of your computer. Now, once you've got that all set up, I've got to keep this way because I'm recording the audio through this computer. But it should say Zentour and then iShowU Audio right there. Then you're going to go into OBS, and excuse the inception of OBS there. You're going to go to Audio, and you're going to go to Mic Auxiliary Audio, and you're going to select iShowU Audio Capture. This is going to route the audio from Ableton into OBS. Now, depending on what DAW you're using, you may have to go into your sound settings in your system preferences, and that would be here. We're going to go to system preferences, then we're going to go to sound, and so on output and input we have iShowU Audio Capture in both of these. You may have to finagle a little bit trying to figure out what options work for you. This is all about experimentation though, and finding what works best for your setup. Now this may seem straightforward, but running both OBS and Ableton on one computer, especially a laptop, especially a Mac, can cause some problems. Macs especially are not designed with really powerful graphics cards that allow you to do your stream encoding on the graphics card and then the audio card is doing something entirely different. They're much more fused together in a Mac. And that's good for some things, but not good for streaming. Now you have to make some concessions in this situation, and usually the first concession that we make with streaming is video quality. You're able to broadcast your video at 720p or 480p, and I'll show you how to do that right now inside of OBS. Check this out. Right here on video, you're able to change the resolution of what you're seeing and what you're broadcasting. The difference between base and the difference between output. Base is what we see on our canvas here. If we were to do a recording with OBS, which you can do, you would see 1920 by 1080, and you could change the output, what your audience sees on your platform of choice. You could change that to whatever you wanted. You could broadcast at 480p. 480p is going to create much less of a strain on your computer and allows you to do a little bit more with your audio, so you can run them off of the same device. Now, having said that, you're not going to really need to run an audio stream or a performance stream or a production stream at 1080p 60 frames per second. That's really only for video game streamers. So stick with what you can use and keep your audio sounding great. Somebody's watching on their phone, they're not going to notice that you're not at 1920 by 1080, but they will notice if your audio quality isn't good. Now let's talk method number 2. Method number 1 was software. Method number 2, we're going to run these programs together using hardware. Now this method is much more cost prohibitive, but in my humble opinion, it yields a much better audio quality and a more reliable setup in general. This is going to require an audio interface that has 2 separate mix outputs. Now I use the Antelope Zen Tour, and it does have 2 separate mix outputs. So the first mix output I have it routed within the Zen Tour software to essentially mimic what's coming out of my computer, right? So it's got my keyboards, my whatever percussion that I'm using from the Ableton Push, my vocals, my guitars, whatever I have hooked up and ready to go. But that second audio interface, I have it routed, and this is going to be different for every single audio interface. So if somebody needs me to explain this specifically for the Zen Tour, message me and I'll show you exactly how to do it. But I didn't figure taking the time to do it in this video would be a good idea. I use mix output 2 with everything from mix output 1, but I also have the click in there, the metronome. That way I can create loops efficiently inside of Ableton, but my audience doesn't hear this the whole time. It allows me to be super creative and move super fast, and my audience can just enjoy the music for what it is. Now, it doesn't matter what audio interface you have. If you're running Ableton, I'm going to show you right now how to route your outputs so that everything can make sense and your audience can hear what they need to. So here in Ableton, we're going to make sure that we have our master out set to 1, 2. So you have a stereo output going to your audience. That's this master out right here. Now in Ableton, by default, the click is set to Q out. Whatever this Q out here is set to, that is going to be the output that hears your click. It's really the click only in this situation. But I would set mine to 3, 4. Because I can hear 1, 2 and 3, 4. I know this is complicated, and I hope I'm not losing anybody, but this is a very, very important thing if you're going to be hearing the click. If you're not going to be using the click and you just want to use Ableton for its plugins and everything, you really don't have to worry about this, and you can only have one output and you'll be just fine. But for me, I need the click there because I'm creating live loops and doing things really fast on the fly. Now, one more thing with Ableton that people ask me about a lot in chat: how am I able to continuously hear my voice but not have a track dedicated to it? And the answer to that is I do have a track dedicated to it. In Ableton, all I have to do is make sure that monitor is selected to in, and I can record enable any other track while still having this track going. Also, in system settings, the input and output device in this second situation with hardware routing is simply just your audio interface. Zen Tour on both of them. Now that it's all set, I run the output with the metronome to my headphones and the output without the click to my camera switcher. And that's the perfect segue, because the next thing we're going to be talking about is the camera setup. Because I have multiple angles running to my stream, I use a camera switcher called an ATEM Mini. It's a simple device from Blackmagic Design that allows me to take 4 video input devices and switch between them using a very simple keypad. It connects via USB-C to any PC, both Mac and Windows. Recall to when I was talking about putting audio and video on one computer that can't really handle that. The ATEM Mini takes that load of encoding multiple camera sources off of your computer and just gives you one good source. As a matter of fact, it's both the audio and the video that it's taking care of for you. It's really, really cool and totally worth the money. Now, the beautiful thing about the ATEM Mini is this. Not only is it taking my video sources and encoding them, it's also taking my audio source and encoding them. So I'm putting my audience feed, not the one with the click, the other one, into my ATEM via an 1/8 inch cable. It's a really, really cool device. And I can just go into OBS. I have a scene here. I'm going to go to my source here. I'm going to go to video capture device. I'll say ATEM Mini. And then the device would be present here on this list. Pretty freaking cool. The next step, super simple. You go to audio input capture, ATEM Mini audio, and then you would see Blackmagic Design on this list. So the ATEM Mini takes care of both of those things for you. Super, super cool. It's an ingenious little device. And though $300 may sound like a lot, a device that does the exact same thing made by a different company goes for over $1,000. So yeah, $300 is a good deal. Now, if you're into using overlays and you're decent with OBS, but you don't want to fork over the minimum $800 for a decent DSLR camera, you have a camera in your pocket that's ready to go and be used as a webcam. Your iPhone or Android device. Instead of spending the $800 on the camera, you could just spend $15 on an app called OBS Camera, and it will allow you to connect your phone into OBS on your computer. And I'm going to take a moment and show you how to do that right now. I have a lightning cable with a USB-C connector connected right into my MacBook. My MacBook has a bunch of USB-C ports. Then we're going to go into OBS. We're going to go to iOS Camera. Now, this takes a little bit of work because there's a plugin that you have to download, but it's pretty straightforward. It seems complicated. All you have to do is click OK a bunch of times. So go to Google, type in iOS Camera for OBS. There's going to be a little download. You download it there, and you restart OBS. You may have to restart your computer, but then iOS Camera will pop up right here in your source list. You'll say iOS Camera. Click OK. I'm going to go on my phone. I'm going to go to the OBS Camera app. It should pop up, and there we go. Look at that. Hey, that's my messy desk. So you've got your camera set up and your audio is routed properly to OBS. The next step is literally the most important thing you can do before you stream. If I find out that any of you didn't do this, I'm going to your family's house and I'm going to tattletale on you, and you're going to be really embarrassed. You must test. It doesn't matter if you have a badass setup with lots of cameras and lights and great sound if your mouth doesn't line up with the video that you are putting out. I've seen this time and time again. It used to happen to me when I didn't have a computer that was strong enough and didn't know how to route things. I would put so much work into the music that I was making on stream, and I would go back and watch the video, and my mouth literally was not lined up with the video that was coming out. It's super basic, and it's square one. You have to take care of it first. And this is going to be something that you run into using a separate microphone and camera. So here's how we fix latency. We're going to go into OBS. We're going to go to an audio source. So let's make an audio input capture source. We're going to say ATEM Mini Audio. We'll select whatever device we have here. I'm gonna just select a random device. And here's the key. We're gonna go to Audio Mixer down here on the bottom. We're going to select Advanced Audio Properties, and this right here, Sync Offset. This is what you'll be looking for. This needs to go probably at least 100 milliseconds, but you're gonna have to time it out and do some experimentation. And the way you do that experimentation is by recording, which OBS has a native function to do. Get everything set up, go down here and hit Start Recording. You'll record, talk for about 10 seconds, just fill some time, talk about whatever's on your mind, then clap a couple of times. Stop the recording and go watch the video. You may need to download something called VLC Player to do this, but you need that on your computer anyway. You can encode and watch tons of different types of videos that you can't use QuickTime to watch. It's free, so go get it. Watch the video carefully in VLC to see if your mouth is lined up with the video. Watch the video carefully in VLC to see if the audio is lined up with your mouth. Then you can go back into OBS, go to Advanced Audio Properties, and play with this sync offset. This situation only applies if your audio is coming before your video. Because your video is a lot more data, it takes longer to encode. So the audio will come first, then the video will follow it. Now, if it's the other way around and your video is coming first, followed by your audio, that's an entirely different set of problems, and it may just be that your computer can't handle what's going on. This seems like a lot of work, but this is square one. You have to get this right. And working for an hour to get your latency correct to where your mouth lines up with the audio that's coming through your system is going to save you so much work in the long run. All right, now that we've got the basics, advanced basics out of the way, let's dig into the more creative side of OBS. Overlays. Now, depending on your community and how you want them to engage with you, you'll be making slightly different decisions. But you want to make sure when you're just starting out that you make everyone watching feel like they're a part of what you're doing, like they're a part of the show. We can easily do this with something called an alert box overlay. This is a picture or a video that will trigger anytime somebody follows you, subscribes to you, buys merch, or donates to you, and a bunch of other different things. We do this using a website called Stream Elements. Now, you may have heard of Streamlabs. That's another company that does basically the same thing, but you got to experiment and see which one you like best. I've had technical problems with Streamlabs, but that's just me. So I've decided to go with Stream Elements for the time being. There are so many options outside of Streamlabs and Stream Elements, so pick what's best for you. So to do this, we're going to go to Overlays Gallery, and then we're going to go to Alerts right here. We're going to scroll down, and we're just going to find something that a theme, a color scheme that we like. Oh, here's my last name, Black Gold Original Alerts. Create. We're going to hit Continue, create my overlay, and go to My Overlays. We'll go into this right here. We'll hit Edit, and you'll be able to see this is what it's going to look like on your screen. Now imagine your stream here. When somebody follows you, it's going to look like this. Look at that, it's already pre-made. It's incredible. This is an amazing way to start out, and this service is entirely free. In the beginning, when I first started, I was making my own alerts through Streamlabs, and I didn't realize that there was pre-made stuff out there already. So here's a subscriber. Here is somebody tipping $50. This is gonna play. There it is, there's the donation. Now, here's the cool part. All we have to do to get this into OBS is click this link up at the top. We've copied the link to the clipboard. We go into OBS and we create what's called a browser source. Go to Browser, and then we're going to say Stream Elements Alerts. Gonna make sure that this is the width of our canvas, 1920 by 1080. Before we exit out of the screen, we are going to paste in the link we just got. Now this is blank, but check this out. I'm going to go back over here. I'm going to hit emulate follower event. Oh, it's in OBS now. Look at that. There it is. Simple as that. Now we can move it around inside of Stream Elements. We can move this around, and so if I do, let's say somebody subscribes to us, one subscription pops up there. Oh, but we have to hit save at the top. Excuse me. One more time. Let's try this one more time. See, it's down there on the bottom, and there it is down on the bottom in OBS. Works perfectly. Super easy. Now these can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. Just make sure that you keep in mind who your audience is. If they love how crazy and chaotic your energy is, maybe you lean into that and make your alerts super crazy and stuff is bouncing all over the screens and the emotes that they put into the chat are flying everywhere. If your computer can handle it, do it. But I would say for most of us, a super clean, easy to understand template is all that we need to start out with, because square one is looking like you know what you're doing, making it look professional. Now before we finish the video, I want to get into OBS settings. This is something that can be confusing if you don't know what you're looking at, and I admit that I'm still super confused by OBS settings sometimes because they'll put out an update and something will move from where it's not supposed to be. Let's take a minute and go through everything that you need to know. The name of the game here is balance. So here we are in OBS. I'm going to open up settings. Usually it's Command comma for those of you that are looking for the key command shortcut. So within general, and I'm just going to go through these kind of quickly. Within general, there's nothing really that we need to change. There's some, some simple stuff like snapping. If you want something to snap to the edge of the screen, you can select whether you want it to do that or not, but there's nothing that I really touch in here. Now, here's one of the important ones. There's 4 blocks on this side that you truly need to focus on. Here's the first one. Stream. This is exactly where your stream is going to go. If you're on Twitch, you will make sure that Twitch is selected here. Make the server auto unless you've found something that works different for you. There's a lot of servers here, but just select auto. And then the stream key you will get from Twitch. This is how OBS connects with Twitch or YouTube or Facebook Live, whatever platform you're using. This is how it connects. And by the way, the reason that this is blocked out is because that's my stream key and I don't want to show you guys. Don't ever show anybody your stream key because then they'll be able to stream to your channel and that would be bad. So the next one, output. This can get really complicated, but I'll tell you the settings that you can use and that are suggested by Twitch. And if you're using a different platform like YouTube or Facebook Live, go search OBS settings, OBS best settings for YouTube or for Facebook, and you'll find the answers that you're looking for. They are all different. But for Twitch, you want a constant bit rate. That's what CBR stands for. Your encoder, you want to be using whatever is best for your computer in that situation. It's probably going to be this X264 encoder. You may have an HVenc encoder on your computer if you're using a PC, so you can encode the stream separately from anything else that you're doing. Like I said, it gets complicated, but I would set this to X264 if there isn't another option. So constant bitrate. Twitch really wants you to have around 4,000 kilobytes per second or less. Depending on who you are, you can have more bandwidth allocated to you, but that's not even something that I worry about. So I try to keep mine somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000, depending on how fast your internet is and how fast your computer is. Keyframe interval set to 2 seconds. This CPU usage, this is really important because the higher that this is set, the less CPU that it uses. So if you set it to very slow, it's going to be a great looking stream, but only if your computer can actually handle encoding that much data at one time. So I set this to faster. That's kind of a preferred setting. Main profile, no need to tune or anything like that. And we're on to the next one. Here's the third important part of settings. You want your sample rate right here to match whatever your DAW and your recording interface are using for their bit rate. If you're at 48 or 44.1, make sure all of these match across the board. It can create some communication issues between OBS and Ableton. If you're on PC, you will want desktop audio enabled. On a Mac, you don't want it enabled, and again, that's something that gets into super specifics, and if you want to know more about that, please message me. All right, on to video. Now, these are all grayed out because I am using this computer right now to record, but this base canvas resolution is what you see inside of OBS. So that's basically your starting point. I have mine set to 1080p. If you know that your computer cannot handle streaming 1080p, then you can view this at 720 and then put out an even smaller output resolution. You could go to 480p on the output resolution. It's all about experimenting and finding what works best for your computer. If you don't have that much processing power, I would advise putting base resolution at 720 and then output resolution at 480. Now, downscale filter, it's between bicubic and Lanczos. Those are both just video encoding styles, moving pixels around and things like that. Not necessarily super important, but again, I would use bicubic if your computer is struggling to process all this. And keep it at 30 frames per second unless you are broadcasting video games. Then maybe you go up to 60. But by then you're going to be better at OBS than I am anyway. So now once you've got your stream set up, you've tested it and you've tested it again, and after that you've tested it one more time, all that's really left to do is just start. Understand that things will go wrong. The internet will go out. Your camera will overheat. You'll have unexplainable audio glitches. It's all just a part of the game. All you can really do is just roll with the punches. So get it all set up, go, and just have fun. I feel like explaining all this technical stuff takes the fun out of it, but this stuff becomes second nature after a while. It's just like learning guitar or bass. It's a new language that you have to learn, and once you've learned it, you can move really quickly. Now, if you'd like to know more about streaming, come hang out with me at twitch.tv/nickblackmusic. I'll be happy to share any knowledge that I have. Come in the chat, ask me questions. I'll be there and I will answer them. Until then, keep growing, keep sharing, and never, ever, ever stop creating. I'll see y'all in the next video.